Welcome to the EchoJunction podcast.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for episode number 140 of the EchoJunction podcast. We're talking social and digital. My name is Adam Fraser. I'm the founder of EchoJunction. And if you're interested in the strategic landscape of social media, digital marketing, and marketing technology, this is very much the podcast for you. Have a fantastic guest to bring you this week, ladies and gents. It's the one and only Mr. Peter Shankman. I'm sure Peter is known to many regular listeners of this podcast. Peter is a 5-time author, keynote speaker, many-time entrepreneur, fantastic insights across marketing, social media, customer service, customer experience. So we have a meander through a number of Peter's books, historically, talk about his thinking, how it's evolved, his most recent book, and just lots of value and insights for marketing and digital practitioners. So hope you enjoy the chat with Peter. I know I certainly took a lot out of it. Thanks so much for being with me. Enjoy the chat, and I will check in with you at the end. I'm delighted to welcome Peter Shankman to the EchoJunction podcast. Peter is a multi-time author and entrepreneur based in New York, USA. Peter, very big welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Really looking forward to the conversation. Now, Peter, I know many in the audience will know all about you, but for those that don't, maybe just kick things off. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about your backstory.
Sure. I started my career back in the 90s at America Online, back when AOL was the internet. I spent several years there, moved back to New York, learned at a very early age that I don't play well with others, and started my first company, a PR firm that catered to primarily the .com world. From there, sold that, consulted for several years, eventually realized that I have massive ADHD, and as such, I talk to everyone. If you're on a plane next to me, unless you fake your death, I'm going to know everything about you by the time we land. And so, so I had this massive Rolodex, and so from that, I wound up starting a company that connected journalists with sources all around the world. That was called Help a Reporter Out. Help a Reporter Out changed how journalists and sources found each other and sort of changed journalism a little bit. I think in Australia you have something called Source Bottle or Source something like that, which I think is the same thing. But I started it first in America, called Help a Reporter Out, and that was acquired several years later after I started it. And now I'm a consultant, a keynote speaker, and author. I have 5 books out. I speak all the time, and I have a podcast called Faster Than Normal, which focuses on interviewing people with ADHD who believe that it is a gift, not a curse.
Wow, how to unpack those 2 decades in the next 40 minutes. You've squeezed a lot in, my friend. And look, I was actually browsing your Twitter stream just before we went on air. Just tell people how many miles you fly a year, I guess, on the conference circuit.
Yeah, I'm on the road about 250,000 miles a year, 250,000 miles a year. And that's, I enjoy it. The best time for me, the happiest moments, my most productive moments, I should say, are when I'm on a plane.
Yeah. Writing chapters of books and blog posts.
The last 2 books have been entirely written on airplanes. Wow,
that's a great story. And last thing on your backstory, I've just got that vision of the AOL CDs in the mail in those early days. Hard to remember now.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. So look, Peter, you've written, as you said, 5 books. In the interest of time, I've picked 3 just to have a sort of meander through history, because I think it's really fascinating to see how early you jumped on a number of very important themes. And then I guess to just talk about how your thinking's evolved and the sequencing of the different books. So can we kick off talking about back in December 2010, you wrote a book, Customer Service, New Rules for a Social Media World. And just as context, so I've been lucky enough to have a number of authors on, but Jay Baer came on the podcast in late 2015 with obviously his book, Hug Your Haters. And Dan Gingis wrote Winning at Social Customer Care in 2017. So obviously, increasing work and analysis and thinking around social customer service in recent years, but you were on this bandwagon back in December 2010. So talk us through that.
Well, I'm just a huge believer that no one believes. You know what? You can trace it all back to dating. Okay, in the world of dating, no one believes how great you are if you're the one that has to tell them. Okay, if I walked into a bar and I saw someone attractive at the bar, and I walked up and said, "You don't know me, but I'm pretty amazing in bed. You should probably finish your drink and come right home with me." Person would put down their drink, smack the crap out of me, and then go back to talking to their friends. That's exactly what they do. I've done a lot of research. That's exactly what they'll do. Now, on the flip side of that, if I'm just sitting there and that person is there with their best friend says, oh my God, look at that guy over there. That's Peter Shankman. I've heard of it. You know what? I know someone who's dated him. He's a really nice guy. You're single. He's single. I'm going to get you his number. You need to talk to him. At the very least, I'm getting an introduction because that is a trusted resource, right? A trusted introduction. Now, the thing about it is, everyone thinks that, oh, well, if I want to get that, I have to do this and that. All you have to do is look at the state of customer interaction, customer service today, and just be about 1% or less better than that. And the killer is that is not hard to do because the state of customer service today pretty much sucks.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary that here we are, 7+ years on from you writing that book, that, even as recently as this, obviously in Australia, we're coming back from our kind of main holiday period. And over that time, I had to call one of the main telcos, ended up in 1-800-HELL, dial 5 for this, dial 4 for that, had to retell my story 3 times, etc. I mean, can you believe, Peter, in January 18, that kind of stuff is still going on?
Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. That's the thing. It's like, I don't need you to walk on fire. I don't need you to do all these amazing things. We expect such crap, right? I mean, think about it. We go, especially at least in America, we go to the airport. We know we get on the shortest line at the TSA for the security, but we still get pulled for the anal probe, right? We now it's an hour. That took an hour. Now it's 20 minutes for our flight. We run to our gate, which is right there, but they never told us they changed the gate. Now we have to run across the damn airport. We finally get there. They've given our seat away. This is what we expect. I don't need you to be awesome. I just need to be a couple of levels better than what I expect, and it's not hard. It's my all-time favorite joke. 2 guys are running in the woods. They're on a training run, and they see a bear. The bear stands up, and he's about to, it looks like he's going to attack. The first guy slowly leans down, and he ties his running shoes tighter. And the second guy says, dude, don't be crazy. You can't outrun a bear. The first guy says, oh, no, I just need to outrun you.
No. It's a great story. And I was actually going to get to Amazon a bit later in the podcast, but I'm going to jump there now. I mean, are Amazon just consistently very good? Therefore, we all think they're unbelievable and outstanding just because the bar is so low elsewhere, and they just get the supply chain.
Amazon's a logistics company. They've
the supply chain.
Logistics well, exactly. And if you could do that well, you're good to go. Right? Again, I don't need you to be great. I just need, if you tell me you're going to have it there by 4 p.m. Friday, have it there by 4 p.m. Friday. Yep. And that's the key. What blew me away about Google, so Google has something called Google Shopping Express, where it's similar to Amazon. You can get, in New York City, you don't want to have to use a car, go to the store. So they deliver bulky items like, at the time, it was all about diapers when I had my daughter. And so I ordered 1 box of size 5 diapers. And I don't know if I screwed up. It was probably my screw up, but they delivered 5 boxes of size 1 diapers. Okay. And they delivered on a Saturday morning, and 5 boxes of diapers in a New York City apartment is pretty much half the apartment. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to have to use this stuff as furniture now because I'm never going to get a response from Google. I replied just to the email receipt that I got from Google, and I'm like, guys, small problem here. And I get an auto reply that says, no problem, just send it back via UPS. I'm like, holy crap, I'm in Manhattan. Where am I going to find a UPS place? It's Saturday morning. Da, da, da. I email them back. I'm like, is that the only way? A human being emails me back and says, okay, just saw what happened. Sorry about that. We're going to have someone come out in the next 2 hours, pick up the 5 boxes, and deliver you a box of size, regular, of the right size. No problem whatsoever. Sorry about that. And we're going to give you like a $25 credit or whatever. That's like God coming. This is Google. It's like God coming down to me and saying, everything you ever had a problem with is fixed, and now you can levitate your cat. I mean, I was blown away. Just blown away. If Google can do it, right? How hard should it be for like a small little company to just be a little bit better?
Yeah, and just answer questions quickly in a timely manner, get the foundations built solidly, do the basics right. I mean, I often talk, you won't be surprised, Peter, 140-something podcast episodes in, Apple comes up frequently. I talk about the Apple Genius Bar all the time. And it's funny, it's not a sexy part of Apple's, offering. It's not surprise and delighting me. It's, hello, my daughter's phone is knackered. I need a human being to help me fix it. I walk out there 20 minutes later, it's fixed. And I've never had a bad experience with the Apple Genius Bar. So yes, the design is beautiful and the product is fantastic, and I get all of that. But a key reason I'm locked into the Apple ecosystem, would never even dream of changing, is the Genius Bar. It's a pretty boring part of the story.
It's pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Peter, take us back then. Talk us a bit about the book. Writing it in 2010, back then, was it a genuine differentiator that it was the very early brands jumping on and offering social customer service?
I think for me, it was really just about the concept that brands were so worried about their voice on Twitter and what they had to say and all those things. I'm like, guys, just be human. Just be a regular person, decent, be kind. And when a problem comes in, fix it, right? Because at the end of the day, and this is what's so funny, at the end of the day, you have people, I don't remember the stat, it was some number in the 60% or something like that. So many people who complain on Twitter, they don't actually need a solution to their problem right away. They simply need to be heard, right? And so it's like, if that's all it really, just know that, respond, right? When I have an issue and I get a response from a company on Twitter or Facebook, it tells me they're listening. I went to a restaurant. There's a chain in Florida called Duffy's. They're a sports bar. I've never been there before in my life. Walked in, tweeted, I'm like, finally trying a Duffy's. This place is great. Within like 3 minutes, I got a response from the whoever handles their social media. Have fun. Let us know what you think. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't, it's just that someone's listening. It's a nice feeling.
It's funny in this era of AI and VR and bots and automation. It's a very human trait. You're right, Peter, that is just acknowledging, owning it, accepting it, apologizing. You're probably 90% the way there. People then go, no, it's fine. I'm not, I don't even want a refund. The things escalate when you're either ignored or they come back kind of fighting fire with fire.
So true. So true. And again, at the end of the day, what can you do that's just slightly better than what we expect? I laugh because it's not hard.
What do you think, even today, drives, marketing, advertising profession so focused on top of funnel and bringing new customers in, and this lack of focus on the foundations, the basics, the retention, the customer service? Have you kind of, you've obviously been thinking about this topic for a decade plus, and, we took my anecdote, there's a gazillion others even today where brands are still struggling with this. Have you kind of got the wet towel on the head and thought, try to understand why?
I think for me, it comes down to companies look at customer service really as sort of a cost center. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can be a profit center. People are so worried. Oh my God, we have so little, profit, or so little, such low margins. And all you really need to do is simply look at, what happens when you do something great for someone and they tell 10 friends. And the crazy thing is that we're moving to a point where it's not going to be about, having to take out advertisements or share, or even leaving reviews on websites. That's going away. It's going to be about the fact that when I have an experience at a restaurant, Google, Facebook, Apple, whoever is running the ecosystem is going to know that not because I left a review, but because of the amount of time I spent there, because of things I've posted publicly, the sentiment of those posts, right? When I land in California, Google says, hey, Peter, we noticed you're in downtown San Francisco, and we know you like steak. There's 3 steakhouses near you. But there are 2 of them that your friends have been to. You want to see which ones those are, right? That's a much more trusted relationship than anything that Yelp could ever give me. Yelp's dead in a few years. So, for me, it comes down to understanding that the network knows what I'm doing and knows what I like based on my actions. With that said, if I'm a company, I want to make sure that my customers' actions are positive. And that starts by giving them positive experiences.
Yeah. So last question on the customer service book, Peter. So you wrote it 7+ years ago. As I said, Jay and Dan and other books have come out since, and obviously, the platforms have changed. Back then, there was no Instagram, no Snapchat, etc. Has your thinking? Yeah, I suppose you're talking more at the strategic level. This wasn't a practical how-to book, or has your thinking changed much as the platforms have changed? And we've got Twitter direct message, Facebook Messenger, one-to-one platforms have become more prevalent. Has your broad thesis or thinking changed on social customer service, or is it still at its core just solve my problem, whatever platform I'm on?
I would say that the platform doesn't really matter that much. The key is to understand where your audience is and to be on the platform that they are using. If you are spending all your time on Twitter and your audience is on Facebook or your audience is somewhere else, well, that's a problem, right? So the smartest thing you could possibly do is to be where your audience is and make sure that they are where they're supposed to be. You are where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay, look, let's continue the kind of meander through your book history. And in 2013, you wrote a book, "Nice Companies Finish First: Why Cutthroat Management is Over." A bit of and collaboration is in, I should say. So a bit of a sort of not so much a pivot, but I know right now, Peter, you do a lot of more general business coaching. You're an entrepreneur. Was this book? Yeah, well, talk us through the thesis of this book and why you wrote that one next.
Well, the premise behind Nice Companies is the fact that companies that treat their customers well and treat their employees well actually make more money than companies who don't care. And you'd think that the basic premise is to treat basically to focus everything on the bottom line. But if you focus on the customers and understand the customers are part of the bottom line, I showed several examples throughout the book of companies that actually make more money and achieve greater revenues simply by being a little bit better.
So I guess focusing, I suppose, taking the same principles you talk about in customer service and applying those to your own workforce as well. So happy workforce, good culture will naturally then.
Oh, yeah. And again, it has to start from the top down. It has to start from the CEO all the way down. The CEO has to be about doing the right thing and showing that they do, caring, showing that, it can't be faked.
So let me sort of probe that because look, in theory, I agree, and that should be the way. If I throw out two, significant businesses at you, Facebook and Uber, I suppose Uber, you're going to argue the jury's still out and who knows where it ends. But no, in all seriousness, like when you look at the cultures of businesses like Facebook and Uber, do you see them playing to those principles, or I guess are there always going to be large enterprise exceptions to the kind of core rules you're talking about?
I think there are always going to be exceptions, but at the end of the day, what I want to see for someone like Uber's getting their asses kicked, right? 6 months ago, Lyft showed more rides in the United States, more first-time rides than Uber for the first time, and that trend has continued, right? Uber got their ass kicked because Uber decided they could do whatever they wanted because, hey, we're Uber. That never seems to work, right? I need companies to understand that it's not. You can never be so big that you forget that you can be shot down in a half a second. My favorite story when I sold Help a Reporter Out, I came home the next day. And for the first time in my life, I started to believe that, I started to believe my own press. Like for a half a second in the elevator on the way back to my apartment, I'm like, man, I'm the shit. I got some money in the bank. Look at me. I'm awesome. Holy crap. I walked to my apartment. I swear to you, I had two cats at the time, Karma and NASA. They had gotten into I wasn't home the night before because the announcement was made in DC. I got home. They'd gotten into a dried bag of food, like sometime, but 10 time left, eating all the food, eating as much as they could, drank water, walked over to the hallway rug in the entryway, puked on it, went back, repeated this process probably 15 times. When I tell you they puked on the rug, I don't mean one time. I mean probably, if you imagine a soccer pitch, right, covered from head. I spent the first three hours of my life as a millionaire cleaning up cat puke. I believe that was supposed to happen. That was the universe saying, don't get too cocky.
Yeah.
And that is so important.
Yeah. I think the way Uber's playing out probably actually fits your premise that if the culture is wrong at the top, ultimately it's going to filter through into the customer experience, governance, trust and so forth. Pete, talk more broadly then about Facebook. I suppose right now everyone's got their, knickers in a twist again about the algorithms changed and publishers are going to get smashed. And but just more broadly, the way they treat advertisers, the way they run their business. Obviously, now a top 10 company.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook is a company that I do believe that the company started off with the concept of caring and everything. Look, it's your 5 billion person company, whatever, how many users they have. It's difficult to maintain that at all times. We live in a world that isn't always nice, and you got to, Facebook has to be aware of that. But on the flip side, I don't believe that they're deliberately going out to do evil per se, at least not like Uber.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I think that at the end of the day, you have to determine what matters to you. But what Facebook has done well is they've trained their users to understand that giving up your privacy is actually beneficial. It can be beneficial to you. Think about it this way. 25 years ago, people were afraid to use their credit cards online.
Mm.
I remember buying something from Amazon in like 94, 95, a book, because Amazon used to, for the kids listening to this podcast, Amazon used to sell these things called books. In fact, their first ever tagline was Amazon.com, Earth's biggest bookstore.
Yeah.
They only sold books, right? And so, we were afraid to give our credit card information out at that point. Now, what's the joke? 20 years ago, your parents said, don't meet up with strangers you meet on the internet. And now we actually have apps that literally call cars driven by strangers that we get into to take us places. So, our mentality changes. And as such, what we considered horrible or frightening 20 years ago has changed. But the concept of being a decent company or trying to be a decent company, at least that's remained the same.
Yeah, it's a timeless concept. So, Peter, we'll move on and get to your third book, and then there'll be a few themes and sort of consistent stories we can talk about that sort of weave their way through all of them. So in 2015, I don't know if this is your most successful book. It's certainly when you came onto my radar, Zombie Loyalists, using great service to create rabid fans. So again, talk about the evolution of your thinking, the premise of the book, and what that was all about.
So the premise behind Zombies, again, is that there's always that one person who loves your brand so much that they are willing to share it with the entire world, right? In the US, there's a restaurant called the Olive Garden, right? It's good. Pasta, it's a family restaurant, it's chain. There's always that one guy in the office, right? Hey, guys, you want to go to lunch today? We're going to go, oh, my God, we're going to the Olive Garden. They have free breadsticks. It's the greatest food ever. There's always that one guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's a zombie loyalist. He had an experience at Olive Garden once that he fell in love with, and now he will always go back to Olive Garden. That's his thing, right? That's what he talks about. He will desperately try to get everyone to go with him to the Olive Garden. I love the Olive Garden personally, but he will desperately try to get everyone to go to the Olive Garden. I'm the same way. I'm a zombie loyalist for something called Peloton, right? The bicycle that the spin bike that you keep at home.
Okay.
Right. I am that guy. I will tell you everything. I'm that guy who, if I'm on a plane and the plane's going down and the flight attendant rushes out and says, oh my God, the pilots are dead. Can anyone fly a plane? I'll stand up and go, well, I can't fly a plane, but I own a Peloton. I should tell you why you should get it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm that guy. So, that being said, if you can create these zombie loyalists just by being a little bit better, by giving them a higher level of customer service, something they didn't expect, you can really sort of change the playing field, because then you no longer have to do your own PR. You let other people do your PR for you.
It's kind of like taking sort of solid, good, basic customer service will get you a decent net promoter score. But if you want to move people to advocacy and really sort of raving and proactively sharing your story and your brand, just kind of moving it up a gear.
Exactly. And that's the key. It's like a net promoter score is great, but, there are a lot of people who are going to buy your product who don't know crap about your net promoter score. All they know is that their friend Mark had a great experience and they want that.
So Seth Godin in one of his early books talked about the sneezers, the guy that loves to share your ideas, and had Joe Jaffe on the podcast talked about his book. We talked about Flip the Funnel, which I think has a lot of similar sort of themes and thinking to what you're talking about, Peter, but also his most recent book, Zero, the Z was for zealots. So again, a similar thing, finding those really passionate guys. Just pincer into, I guess, influencer marketing. Once you identify that cluster of really passionate users, what should a brand, how should a brand then approach that?
Once they have those users, all they have to do to keep them and keep them doing it is just reach out to them every once in a while. Say hi. Hey, thought of you. Here's a card. Here's a 20% off coupon. Here's a VIP card, whatever. Right? And the thing about it is that you have every single company in the world trying to do that. The majority of them are doing it wrong because they're trying to reach out to, the influencers, right? The Kim Kardashians of the world. I hate that I had to bring her up. But the fact of the matter is that The real influencers are the ones who are actually using your product, who actually love it, and who want to share it. The second they get told that they're pretty awesome by the company, they're over the moon, right? They already love you. Now they love you even more.
And I think often it can only be, in fact, it's actually better if it's things like, I know it sounds trite, a birthday card, a regular thank you, access to maybe a launch of a product before it comes out. I don't like the really sort of proactive, hey, Peter, we'll pay you $1,000 to say nice things on Instagram about our brand, because I think the trust naturally flies out the window at that point. Whereas if it's just authentically, appreciating someone's loyal service, I think that's great.
Yep. And that's the key. Again, doesn't need to be amazing, right? Just needs to be a little bit better. And show me I'm a huge person there. Show me I'm a real person. Show me you care.
Peter, the theme of your books, just the three we've talked about, obviously it's about the kind of the retention piece, the loyalty piece, the customer service piece and trust. I'm all in on all of that. Let's kind of go to the other side of the continuum. Are you in the advertising is dying bandwagon, or what's your view on sort of traditional marketing
There'll always
mix?
be a place for advertising. My ex-wife is a creative director of one of the largest agencies in the world, and there will always be a place for advertising. She does incredible work, and there will always be a place for that. It is going to have to continue to get smarter, as it is, because there are so many other outlets by which we can get our information. But there'll always be a place for it.
Okay. And in your work, have you tended to focus, do you consider yourself a kind of broad-based, marketer, or are you very much focused on that retention, customer service, customer experience piece?
Yeah, I'm a marketer. I like knowing that there are ways of learning about people and listening about people. At the end of the day, I just like listening to people. I like learning about people. I like people intrigue me. The world intrigues me, right? I'm very fortunate that what I do for a living, I get to have fun.
Yeah. And Peter, last question on, without getting too sort of techie and goldfish bowl about it, talk about customer experience, customer service. Is the latter a subset of the former? Do you get hung up on, do you see customer experience as a sort of broader end-to-end touch point thing, or just talk a bit about that?
I think that, the touch. It's funny because I'm a huge fan of technology, and I'm a huge fan of, ironically, not having to talk to customer employees. I'm a huge fan of being able to do things on my phone automatically. But the irony is, basically, everyone wants to have a phone that runs on the largest network, the most powerful network in the world. But when they have a problem with their phone, they want to be able to talk to John at the local phone store.
Yeah.
That's the key. It's like, understand your audience, understand what they want and where they want to go.
So, Peter, just quickly, you've so Zombie Loyalist was 2015. You've just released a new book right now. Tell us about that.
So I have a new book out called Faster Than Normal. One of the things that I've learned about myself is that I have massive ADHD, and that ADHD is actually a benefit. One of the reasons I've been as successful as I have been is because of my ADHD, that I use that faster brain to my advantage. So I have a podcast called Faster Than Normal, which focuses on ADHD. From that, we launched a book. A book came out about 4 months ago. It's called Faster Than Normal again, and it's sort of a primer for how to use. It's not only for people with ADHD, it's for anyone who really wants to get 3 hours a day of productivity back in their lives. And it focuses primarily on creating these rituals that allow you to work at a faster speed than everyone else. So, the things that I do sound crazy until you realize they're incredibly useful. I get up around 3:45 every morning. I start my day around 3:45 in the morning. I get on my bike, or I go for a run or a workout. And I do that for an hour and a half because I need that dopamine, that serotonin. I know that stuff kicks my brain into gear, right? I'm very aware of what I eat. I'm very aware of how much sleep I get. I try to get like 8 hours of sleep if I can a night, that kind of stuff. And so that means I go to sleep early. And people are like, oh my God, what are you, a farmer? I'm like, no, it works. And so again, you want to be able to do what you can do to make it, everyone says, oh, I don't have the time. I wish I could get up early I wish I had the time to do what you do. I'm like, well, you do. Because I'm pretty sure where you live in the earth and where I live in the earth, the sun revolves around, or we revolve around the sun at the same. I doubt you revolve around the sun for 23 hours a day, right? We both have the same amount of 24 hours in each day. It's what we choose to prioritize and use to our advantage.
Great stuff.
That's important.
Yeah. So look, I'll link all the books up in the show notes, but congrats on the recent release. Any suggestions for people that do one YouTube search and 54 minutes later come out from a rabbit warren, one Twitter stream, and it's an hour and 20 minutes later?
The greatest Chrome extension I ever found is something called what the hell is it called? It's called Kill Newsfeed. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You can go onto Facebook and just look on your page, see if anyone's commented, but you will not get sucked down the rabbit hole. And also, okay. I'm a huge fan of timers. Set a timer, 15 minutes, done. Get off the network. Also, there's a wonderful app I use called Omm Writer, OMM Writer, and it's a word processing program that only allows that program open. Everything else is shut down until I quit it.
Okay. Oh, that's some good productivity hacks for people there. Again, I'll link those things up in the show notes for people to check out. So, Peter, just let's sort of shift gears a little bit for the final few minutes of the interview. Talk about a few more general sort of marketing, macro market topics. Look, first one to pick back up on is very topical here in Australia. So, Amazon have arrived. We've talked about them briefly earlier in the interview. So they set up, retail operations, if you like, late November. I've just seen an announcement actually this morning. Amazon Echo is now here. Sorry, Alexa Echo? I'm getting confused with my...
I think it's Amazon Echo, and Alexa is the name of
right.
it that you call.
Got it.
That's what I use.
So look, the juggernaut has arrived. Peter, what can Australians expect from Amazon? And I guess more importantly, what can retailers expect?
Well, look, I don't think, in the U.S. at least, retailers weren't killed by Amazon. Retailers were killed by leverage buyouts and by hedge funds buying and selling real estate that affected them. I think what small businesses can understand is if they are able to create better relationships with their customers, they will keep them. But they also can't sit there in the dark and say, oh, well, that's all we need to do and everything else will work itself out. No, we are entering a new time and you need to be aware of that. And so that means changing some of the ways that you do business, seeing what else you can offer, seeing if there are other companies you can partner with, whatever the case may be.
I think it's a wake-up call for Australian retail. Obviously, it's getting quite specific to the local market here. But, again, back to my sort of telco example of 1-800-HELL for 40 minutes, still happening. Right. In Australia today, you can still order something online and get an email saying, that'll be there in 3.5 weeks.
Right.
It's out of stock.
The thing to understand.
We chose not to tell you when you placed the order, but you're now getting an email saying it's 3.5 weeks later.
They're going to have to up their game. Definitely going to have to up their game because, keep in mind, Amazon also, the other thing that people don't realize, Amazon can sell anything they want on their own line. What blew me away was when I found out that Amazon sells diapers. This is a bookstore that now sells diapers. Okay, what can they not do? So, companies need to be aware of that. Yeah,
and there's still... again, major listed company retailers with pseudo brochure websites where you actually can't buy stuff. I mean, it sounds like I'm making it up, Peter, but there are still people with very, very, very basic online e-commerce presences. So I just think Amazon bringing that know-how, the supply chain. I know Australia's a different market. People say it's more similar to Canada than obviously the USA or Europe, but just feel they've got the know-how and the logistics and the supply chain to really shake things up a bit.
Yep. No question about it.
Okay, we'll brace for that. Peter, talk about the social media landscape more broadly. The Snapchat IPO, Instagram's growth, messaging platforms. What are you seeing as key sort of trends in the market more generally?
I'm a 45-year-old guy. You don't want to ask for me. You want to find a 15-year-old girl and ask her. I actually have a 15-year-old. I have an audience of a group of kids ranging from age 13 to 22 that I take out for pizza every 3 months and ask them exactly that. And I can tell you what they're talking about. They're talking about, Snapchat is huge. Texting is still huge. They don't care if companies follow them on devices. They don't care if companies know who they are. They care if their friends follow them and or don't follow them, i.e., it is very much on Instagram. It's very much about who you allow to follow you. The majority of them have private accounts. The big thing is that they are using their phones as extensions of them. And they are open to trying new things. If they like them, they continue. If they don't, there's a game in America. I'm not sure if it's overseas. I'm sure it's overseas called HQ, which is a trivia game that in the past month has exploded and is a live trivia game online at HQ. It's an app. It goes about twice a day at 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, and has somewhere along the lines of 1 million users in real time playing every single day. It's obscene. It's a month or two old. So those are the kind of things that are important.
So I'm gonna call you a veteran of the sector, Peter, and that's a compliment, not an insult about. Yeah, I'm a similar age, so don't worry about it. But I guess we lived through the early days of Facebook and Twitter, and I'm doing the air quotes. Everyone is a publisher, and the world of one to many. More broadly, you're seeing it's Facebook Messenger, it's Twitter DM, it's obviously Snapchat at its core, a messaging platform, in its DNA, one to one. Is that the broader trend you're seeing? I mean, it's almost back to. Yeah, we poo-pooed the telephone, but kind of the technology changes, but people have ended up navigating back to, either one-to-one or one-to-a-few, it seems.
People use what they like. People use what they like, and they use what benefits them. And the more that something remembers how people work, right, and remembers they're human beings and things like that, the better off companies will be.
In terms of the marketing landscape more broadly beyond social, are you one of these people that dives into, AI, VR, AR, driverless cars?
AR, VR, driverless cars, all that stuff is going to be dependent on the network being able to handle 5G. As soon as we're there, then we'll see it. Right now, it looks great, sounds great. It's not 5G yet. Once we get to 5G, that's a new world.
Okay. And just to sort of loop things
2021.
Back. Okay. But to loop things back to where we began, would you, there's a lot of senior marketers, digital practitioners listening. Should people generally, as a very general rule, be focused on the basics and getting the foundations right and not spending too much time on the ARs, the VRs, the algorithms, and the big data stuff?
It always has to be about the basics. No question about it.
Yeah. Peter, fantastic stuff. Look, thank you for taking the time to jump on the podcast. Really enjoyed the conversation. I think you've got a masterclass coming up. What's 2018 look like for you, Peter? Where are you focused on? Is it sort of the marketing customer service stuff? Is it the broader business coaching? Where are you at?
A little bit of everything. I do run a mastermind group called Shank Minds, and that is shankminds.com. And that's about 160 people, entrepreneurs from starting out to about 3 years under the belt to having exits under the belt. And these are, it's basically an online group. We meet in person about every 6 months. I'm also launching an additional coaching class, a high-level end coaching class, which you can find at shankminds.com as well. And we do events in public. We do events in New York, all around the world. It's I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're not short of things to do just from browsing your website and your social streams, and the speaker circuit's still going to sort of hit that hard this year.
I hope so. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all about the companies. If they want to keep hiring me, I am more than happy to keep speaking.
Peter, great stuff. Look, I'll bring the body of the interview to a close, but we get strategic, deep, and heavy in the body of the interview. So just lighten things up at the end, Peter. Are you all set in New York City for the quickfire round?
By all means, let's bring it on.
Let's do this. Peter Shankman, author and entrepreneur. If you could only use one social network for any purpose in the next 30 days, which would you choose and why?
I think, funnily enough, so Peloton, don't laugh, Peloton actually has a social network base where you follow people who are doing rides and they follow you. Because if I only had for 30 days, if nothing else, I'd get in better shape. And then I'd come back on Facebook and people be like, wow, you look awesome.
You are the true zombie loyalist. You even took a question about social networks and got Peloton into it. Great answer. But if I push you hard beyond Peloton, of the more true at this point, Facebook, yeah. Okay.
But again, it's a BS question because it's about where your audience is, right? My audience happens to be on Facebook. I can't, if someone else isn't, I can't push them to go there. It's pointless.
Okay, question to Peter. If you could only pick one, what's the most impactful or influential business book you've ever read?
They Can Kill You, But They Can't Eat You. It is a book by a woman who's since passed away named Dawn Steele, and it's about her trials and tribulations as the first female head of Paramount Pictures.
Okay. Love asking that question. Like I say, 140 plus episodes in, and whilst we've had a lot of good to greats and 7 habits and, lean ins, great variety. So never had that answer. I will link that up in the show notes for people to check out. And final question 3, Peter. If you could only follow 3 people on Twitter, who would you choose?
New York City Alerts, which is a living in Manhattan, being born and raised in Manhattan. You very much want to be aware of sort of what's going on. So they broadcast like emergencies and things like that. I'd probably follow a news outlet, some sort of breaking news outlet, and then probably United Airlines, just because I live on their planes. I'm loyal to them, and I'm on their planes pretty much nonstop. So always good to have friends, I suppose.
Okay. It also helps you professionally because there's always a PR crisis waiting to happen in an airline.
Yes.
So you can monitor the latest PR stash. Great stuff. Look, Peter, thank you once again so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate your time. You've mentioned one link before, but before I let you go, just let people know where they can reach out to you and connect with you and stay in touch with you.
Yeah, my entire life is at shankman.com, shankman.com. I'm at Peter Shankman on all the socials, and my mastermind again, shankminds.com, and the podcast is fasterthannormal.com.
There we go, ladies and gents. Mr. Peter Shankman, like a whirlwind through the EchoJunction revolving doors, but really fantastic to have someone of Peter's credibility, experience, and insight on the podcast. Fascinating to chat through the sort of evolution of his thinking across his books, to understand what he's up to now, and look, just love the focus. All came back to customer first, customer service, customer experience, solving problems, so very much consistent with many of the themes we've talked about over time on the EchoJunction podcast and EchoJunction blog. Episode number 140 coming to a close. Ladies and gents, great kickoff to 2018. More fantastic guests coming your way. If you haven't yet subscribed to iTunes, please do head over there to make sure you never miss a podcast episode. Thanks so much for being with me, and I look forward to seeing you on a future podcast episode.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe on iTunes, where you can also leave a review. Be social, and we'll see you again next week.